Alright, hello everybody. Third round game from my recent tournament. I was white facing 1959 rated opponent. I knew he plays the Grünfeld, so I prepped somewhat. So we go into a normal Grünfeld, and here I play bishop f4. Don't go for the normal stuff here with the takes, the more common Grünfeldian lines. Counterplay there, and I mean, those are fine too, but I'd like to play a little differently. I've tried many lines. This is what I was prepped to do this tournament. And I think this game went really well prep-wise. Afterwards I kind of messed up and let the... Oh, my prep didn't really go for a big advantage anyways, but... So knight f3, castles, rook c1. So this looks a bit weird, but... We are kind of preparing because black will play c5, black will play queen a5. And this is kind of like already preparing for that counterplay. I mean, okay, it didn't happen there, but it could have happened if he chose the different line. Like this, something like e3 is more normal. You defend here and get closer to castles, but then these things happen and they are much more dangerous for white. Like queen a5s, and then you can even take another pawn, but then knight takes here, and suddenly everybody and their mom is threatening a c3. You can do stuff like this, but it's better like this is getting ready. Of course, you delay the castles. This can be kind of dangerous. Black's already castled. He's gonna unleash in the center. And yeah, here the more critical lines are the d takes c stuff, I think. e4, and then might go for this stuff here, or white can, black can also come here. But alright, rook c1, my opponent played c5, so lots of tension in the center. He's trying to unleash the bishop here and opens up the queen here. Your normal Grünfeldian stuff here. So I took this, kind of goes into an endgame line. I guess black could avoid it in some ways, but the way he played it. So chop. There's a weird pawn structure here where the pawns have kind of sidestepped each other. And queen trade, bang. And I had all the way this one e4 I had on the board before the game, prepping this. Knight a6 he had never played this, but I did look at the lines, more common lines that this line can lead to, so I had this before the game on the board. I know it's a small advantage for white. Maybe easier to play. e5 still was my prep. More normal moves are knight move somewhere here. This is the first novelty. I had no idea. Is this a real move? Kind of looks like it's not even supposed to work, but it does kind of actually work decently. It's not that much worse than either one of these. So takes, and then he takes, and it almost looks like this stuff here works, but doesn't. I mean, I took there, of course, free pawn, hit the rook, but this stuff here, like I thought this loses at some little, but then I realized that the knight is annoying, even though it looks like it's out of the play on the flank there. Stuff like b4 I thought is gonna win. Like this looks a little shaky if he has to go somewhere. Of course he can't go here because of the fork, and well, he has no squares on there, so it has to go here, and I don't know. Okay, it's still defended, and he has this with check, so I can't really take the defender. And this is not working yet because the rook is defended, yeah. Like, well, actually, yeah, this stuff I kind of looked at. Maybe. Not sure. Unfortunately, for black, they can just, for white, black can just take here and walk into this discovery. Because this stinking fork here, and it ruined a lot of lines for me in this game. Like the knight coming here and forking me was pain of my existence in this game. And then black's fine, I assume. Well, black's winning, of course, their piece up. So this kind of works, and b4, well, doesn't lose or anything, but it gives the back kind of a free pawn. Well, maybe we could say it almost loses. Also, it activates the knight. That was a little bit of a problem for black in the flank there. Anyways, since those did not work, I went knight g5, aiming at here, and here I think I hallucinated a lot of stuff. I'm not even sure I looked at h6, which afterwards looked really logical. Of course, you think this is dropping with check, so probably why I mentally like ignored the move. But it actually works for white. I was kind of starting to feel a little bit bad here until I looked at a little deeper, and I can actually take here. So the point is that h6 is that, dude, you have two things hanging here. But luckily for white, we have this here. Our rook is defended. So we can play around here, and yeah, if black would take here, we can take the rook here. And then we're doing fine, winning probably. Too bad black can take here, there, chop here. Actually, no, he cannot chop here yet. This is how the game went. Not here, not this way, but like here, another little finesse I missed. g5. So if they took instantly, I'll take, they'll take. I could take this with check. And then we are up a pawn, and the king is a little bit like the rook could go here, but we have to deal with the b pawn, but looks pretty pleasant. g5 is a nice little in-betweener here. So of course I can't now take here, because then again we have two things hanging here. No good. And also he's threatening this, so this probably is the only move here. Stopping this bishop dying with the check. No good. Well, here I could do something else, but I mean, this is also possible. He took here. He could take here, there, there. I thought I have some nice counterplay with h4 here, unleashing the bishop and hopefully unleashing the rook too. It's not that much of a advantage. Almost none. He took here. It's pretty much the same. I just somehow I was kind of happy with the rook. It felt a little vulnerable, flopping around on the 5th rank in the middle of the board. Okay, so it's my bishop, of course. So I guess that was his idea. I go here, and he played rook b4. I'm not sure. I think he offered a draw here, or no, I think he offered a draw after I decided I don't want to deal with the pawn. The problem here is that if you defend the pawn, they can always play knight b4. Well, at least I thought they can. There's a little finesse here. So I thought this fails, that the pawn is not really defended because of this tactic here. Sadly, at this point, white can play knight c4, bishop c4, hit the rook, which has no good squares, and we defend the fork at the same time. The rook can't attack the bishop or defend this or anything. then we can just pick up the bishop. So this tactic did not work, which I thought it does. Luckily for me, this is also fine. The pawn is not so relevant. White is still better. I think here he took the pawn and offered a draw. And of course it's hard to reject being a pawn down, but I was kind of like, we have the bishop pair. The knight is still a little bit out of the play, and I saw the h4 counterplay coming, so I played the rook here, kind of playing against the knight more. And yeah, maybe supporting h4 stuff here too. Alright, so they played here. I think I was not really sure about this during the game, but afterwards I checked with engine. I think it's engine stop move. I thought it was meh, but it was actually good. So luckily I don't have to react there. My rook's defended. So I went with my counterplay here, trying to do stuff here. The skewer on the back rank is a problem. So black took, I took, and they played rook c8. So the problem for them is that if they take, I don't know, maybe I'll take here with check first, or take here. Okay, afterwards I looked at the engine and said that rook b1 is the best move here, but during the game I would probably would have taken and then taken here. That was the plan. And these are really good for white. Like, we have a passed pawn here, we have the bishop pair. The knight is still out of the play, and the rook's still out of the play, and it looks really pleasant. Another problem for black is that this kind of stuff here doesn't work, because we can just chop, chop, chop. And if you take back, bang, you lose the rook. And any kind of well, we have this check coming here, and again we have made the passed pawn here. It's just very pleasant for white, all these endgames. So they played rook c8, much better. And then there's also some annoying defenses, like with the rook here and there. So I was kind of tempted to go for this, I think. And this is what I played in a game. I was kind of tempted to go for something like this. But yeah, it's not so clear. Probably not winning this one forever. I'm down a pawn here. They're of course kind of maybe irrelevant being a double pawn there, but you never know. I have a passed pawn, connected pawns, but it's not enough. So instead I went for this. My opponent played this, and then there is this annoying thing that I can do this. But he has this move here and there, and defends the knight here, which I did not like at all. It's probably equal. Instead, my opponent played here, I took there. We still have the same tactics here, that if we take twice we have the skewer here, but now we have to deal with the in-between checks. Here I think I miscalculated, like the worst thing during this entire tournament. I was pretty lucky here. So I took here based on the skewer. They have a in-between check. And well, here first of all, I somehow thought that there's the knight forks coming up again. Somehow during the game I thought, like, if I go here, they take here, and I take here. Okay, this is winning, but not because of what I saw. I somehow thought like I get out of the fork by some weird stuff here, but of course it doesn't work. I don't know where the king goes. Defends the bishop somewhere. Assume. And then if I take there and bang. Apparently this is also kind of fine, but I'm a rook versus 2 pieces. Not so much fun. I think white is fine here with some kind of a rooks going for the pawns here. And then we win a pawn. And well, computer said that was level, but whatever. I didn't really fancy that. I don't know. I somehow thought like this somehow saves the bishop, but luckily I did see that this does not work, because after here I have the skewer here and he can't save the pieces, and no forks anywhere either. That's why king b3 out of checks out of forks is important. Unfortunately, black doesn't have to go for this. He can just take here. And this is definitely even Steven. White has the bishops, but it's not so good. And my king is kind of stupid now on the back rank. Here I think either way going up doesn't work, because there's the knight b4 coming up, and then I lost a piece. No good either. So I think here I should have gone for something different, but it didn't look like winning either way. So rook here, king d1, and then they took here. Well, here I saw this, and I hoped I have some like play on the king on the back rank. I thought this can't be done, but it can. There is this king move here, and now you cannot move the rook on this, because the rook check wins the bishop. It's pinned, so it can't block. So black has to stay here, and it's fine for white black. I took the pawn here. They attacked my bishop. I retreated here, and then chop, chop. And this should be a draw. I went here, trying to get there, but well, here we both hallucinated a lot. Like, I thought this is not takeable. He thought it is takeable, and then he thought about it and thought, yeah, it's untakeable. It is takeable. So the point is here, king e2. They attack there. I do a double attack here. And they have a nice little in-between check defending e7. My king comes here, and now why is this not takeable? Or actually is takeable. He played here, and the game keeps on going. It's still level. But if he took here, it's definitely not winnable with one pawn each. I thought I can take here, and the knight has one way to escape. And I thought this, and here, and double attack, and I win. And I would win here if this was forced. We both missed that the knight can escape here, though, because of this fork in the end. So bang bang, and then it's definitely nobody's gonna win that endgame. Like, I can win the pawn, but king is front of my pawn, and well, of course black could mess that up, but it's Philidor's position. Pawn, the king in front of the pawn, and it should be an easy draw to hold. Luckily for me, we both got or missed some details here. He played a5, I played a3. Now there is more pawns, and the bishop versus knight. This gives a white some chances. Of course it's equal, but if you ask the engine, all zeros, but it's playable. The knight has to go into something stupid, like it probably can't go here because of the pin. So knight goes to a7, a6. Well, I'll pin the knight to a pawn here. So they try to get the knight out, can't take the pawn because of the forks here, and discoveries too. So I improve my king, maybe coming here. They give me a check, I come here anyways. They defended the rook. So this was the 40th move. Those were probably a little bit time trouble-ish moves in the before from both sides, which is probably why we missed some details. So I took a check. They have to block with the pawn. Well, they could block with the rook, but then they lose the pawn here. And here I saw one idea to try to win. Rook g5. I attacked the knight and then traded the rooks. And here, well, trading the rooks does not work. The game my opponent played here. They should just give up the pawn, and apparently, according to engine, that is equal, but of course it's very hard to probably hold in a practical game with the passed a pawn and bishop bearing down here. Like this engine says, like play here or there and let the pawn go, be happy. But yeah, I would have been happy to try to grind that endgame. Rook takes here, king takes. And the problem is that, well, for instance, even this very concrete line, white is just slightly ahead in this race. Even happening with check, but it would not really matter if this king was somewhere else and they could play here. Of course, the queen versus the central pawns win anyways. Knights are very bad versus the flank pawns. Alright, my opponent played a little differently. He played knight d7. I took and went attack the knight. Here I cannot really go instantly here, I think, because then black's fast enough. Yeah, this line here. Bang, 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 bang. Let's not go to a check and then bang, 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 bang. Both queen at the same time. No good. Draw. But luckily I have here a nice little bishop move here, distracting the knight. Here I was expecting my opponent to play the knight somewhere else. Like knight f6. Of course it's not a good square because you are kind of walking into a bishop domination anyways. Bishop is kind of holding this. It's very good. Pawns on both flanks, knight versus bishop. Bishop should have a big advantage. Here it's winning for white. Now I can just go eat that guy away, and this is just not gonna go anywhere. You can run it, but white can play bishop f3 for instance here, and it's very hard to block or disturb the bishop off here. Like you can try, but it does not really work. Of course white can't take because the pawn goes, but we can just stay there and king goes somewhere, dominate the knight for instance, start to run your pawn. And this is completely, hopelessly too slow. White can just take and... Oh, sorry, king c5, yeah. Again, dominating the knight. Okay, this would have been a kind of pain to calculate during the game. Of course, white could probably go also king backwards to here. Maybe easier. But this is what I expected. My opponent played the knight to the worst square possible. Knight b8. And then, of course, bishop b5. Oops, the knight is completely trapped. Game plan is just to go eat the knight, sack the bishop to a pawn, and then promote the a pawn. So my opponent played king f4. I just go eat the knight. There's nothing he can do about it. Well, he could go for the a pawn, but then of course I run with the g pawn. Knight's not playing. This is hopeless. Continued few moves. I come here. I want to attack this. If he goes there, we just sack. And the king is like 16 moves away from the reaching somewhere where it could hold. Well, only 3. And there's like no way. Of course, yeah, this is practically over. But yeah, it is here. White is definitely winning, but of course, knight somewhere else would have been much more complicated. Of course, some chances to mess this up. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really have a huge advantage in any point in this game until I had in the end. I don't know if I was ever like much better in this game. No, neither was my opponent. It was probably very, very accurate game until the end. But pays to play the end games all the way through. Anyways, I kind of enjoyed that game, even though it was not the cleanest game in the world. Anyways, thanks for watching. Until next time.